right then, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for an exciting fireside chat. The topic for this chat is hybrid multi-cloud evolution and future. Our speakers for this session are Mr. Rupesh Mehta, Vice President Information Technology, Tata AIA Life Insurance. He is a technology leader known for his sharp technical skills and business acumen with multi-domain experience spanning across different sectors from insurance to infrastructure, from telecom to oil and gas, with experience over 18 years. He has proven track record of leading IT teams and executing complex technology projects, leading the business-focused technology initiatives and setting up technology strategy that becomes business enabler has been his key strength. In current role at Reliance Health as CTO, he has successfully set up the technology platform for launching fully digital and paperless health insurance business, which involved managing more than 30 different partners and applications, setting up overall technology team from scratch, and enable business with most agile development roadmap. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please put our hands together and welcome Mr. Rupesh Mehta up on stage? Our next speaker is Mr. Amol Divanji, Head of Pre-Sales India and SARC, Veeam. Veeam provides a single platform for modernizing backup, accelerating hybrid cloud, and securing data. Mr. Amol Divanji, with over 20 years of experience in technology evangelization, pre-sales, IT, architecture, and business development, Amol has been instrumental in driving technology adoption, complex infrastructure design, and customer relationship management. He has been involved in some of the very large and strategic transformation projects with banking and ITEs, customers across India. Before joining Veeam, Amol has worked in various capacities at VMware India, Oracle India, Hitachi Data Systems, and Sun Microsystems. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please put our hands together and welcome Mr. Amol once again on stage, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. So Rupesh, we are back again, I guess. I think so this discussion is just maybe continuation of what we had, right? I think, first to start with, I just wanted to introduce Veeam. If you're not aware what Veeam is world leader in modern data protection. We are the #1 from the market share perspective, as well as Gartner rates us as a leader for 6 consequent years, right? What modern data protection is simply, ability to protect your data irrespective of where your data lies, whether it is inside your data center, whether it's in private cloud, public cloud, whether it's in SaaS service, or whether it's in some modern platform like a Kubernetes, right? The second thing which we do very good is mobility of data across the platforms, across clouds. That's second thing. And the third thing is protecting or creating the last line of defense for the cyber threats. Right, so ransomware protection is the third ability which Veeam brings on the table. So like I was saying, this discussion is more or less continuation of what we discussed so far, Rupesh. I think cloud is one of the most significant, platform shifts in history of computing, right? So the initial shift was driven by infrastructure availability to the exact size of what business wanted. So that was the major driver for people to adopt cloud. So here I wanted to actually quote 2 examples, right? The first one is one of my favorites, which I read during pandemic, was around Moderna, right? So Moderna's CEO, he terms their, vaccines as, lease of life or software for life, right? So Moderna's CEO actually decided to adopt a hyperscaler for this software for life, right? So they decided to actually start off their development and research on cloud, and then pandemic struck. So we all know at what speed Moderna was able to actually come out with a vaccine. So that's basically innovation with cloud, right? So they were able to achieve this simply because, they had the scale of cloud at disposal for them, right? And of course, the various other services which could bring tremendous value and make their research more parallel than the serial which otherwise it would have been on-prem. The second example I want to quote here is from Dropbox. See, Dropbox actually was one of the first ones to join the cloud bandwagon, and they moved to cloud pretty quickly. But later on, they realized that the cloud computing costs are going so high that they decided to lock, stock, barrel come back, right? And I think so in 2 years' time, they have saved around 60% of the cost by just coming back on-prem, right? So these are the two examples, two at very extreme ends, right? So Rupesh, while you've been introduced fairly well, why don't you, introduce your role? And for starters, if you can give us some sense as to what your experiences have been on cloud, it would be great.
Sure. Thanks. And quickly touching upon, so let me start with my introduction. And rather than my introduction, I would try to cover my experience with cloud because that might be more of a context for now. So as I mentioned in the earlier panel discussion, I have been fortunate to witness both sides. So basically, a greenfield implementation and driving cloud adoption for a legacy application, and both have got their own challenges, which is what we discussed in the previous panel. So I'm not going to repeat that. But having said that, so that is one area which is where I have got good amount of understanding and experience after, obviously not after learning hard, and that's something which is what adds to that. And at the same time, I've seen some of the applications portfolio changing over a period, and how the things are becoming different from tech management perspective. So that are the areas which I would like to cover upon, and yeah, we can have the discussion further progressing if that's the case.
Right.
Yeah.
So the first thing which comes to the mind is all these jargons, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud. Somewhere I was reading that the BFSI sector has got at least 2.5 clouds. I don't know where that 0.5 comes from, but that's the exact stat, right? I would like you to comment on this. Why do people or why organizations in BFSI are looking for multi-cloud? Why multi-cloud? Why not single cloud?
So interesting question, and in fact, whenever any organization is talking about the cloud journey, they have this question getting posed to CTO, and then discussion happens with the finance that if we have one cloud, then probably so okay. Let me start with the answering that question, then I'll try to add to that. I don't think it's a new phenomena wherein we are talking about multi-cloud strategy is nothing new, because when we were on-prem, that point in time also diversifying your exposure was there. And when we move to cloud, the phenomena remains the same, that when you're moving to cloud also at the same time, don't get exposed only to one environment which can have a potential to bring your business down, right? So there is this is the basic driving logic as per me, that when you're moving to any cloud, if let's say if AWS is your choice of cloud, then don't keep everything to one cloud, because somewhere at the bottom of every organization's DNA, there is still the trust or the reliability, or what do you say, that 100% this thing is not there as of now. So that maturity is still not being achieved, and there's nothing wrong in doing that. So that's how I think the concept of hybrid cloud came into picture, that I'm talking about the business aspect of that. Now let me touch upon the technology aspect of that. Is basically, so if you choose any particular cloud, there is a peripheral network and peripheral infrastructure that comes as an overhead for that particular cloud setup. And when you try to choose hybrid cloud concept, this is kind of adds up to that complexity. Still, organization prefers to go for a hybrid cloud. Simple reason being, there are definitely certain potential and certain advantages with all the cloud service providers that we have. So if you go with Azure, if you have a SQL stack, definitely Azure will be more advantage for you. If you are a full house Microsoft shop, and if you're going for Azure, that can be an advantage for that. At the same time, in your environment, you will always have certain other applications which will not Microsoft based, and that becomes an overhead on the Azure. So why don't you keep that in some other cloud? That is point two, which drives a multi or hybrid cloud strategy. Apart from that, what happens is when you are working in a multi or hybrid cloud strategy, one of the important advantage that you get is that at any given point in time, how your workloads are performing in any with any of the when any of the CSP cloud service providers, you can keep juggling between them, and that really can add to a good advantage when you're managing the tech at the back end. And if you're really juggling, if you can juggle that in a proper efficient way, that can really add to efficiency. That can be a third point which I would like to add, adding up to the hybrid cloud strategy. And when we say hybrid cloud strategy, let me also put it up. It's not only about between two cloud service provider, but it is also today people are having on-premise workloads also, right? So, and there are reasons for that, and there are compelling reasons, and there are choices also, right? So compelling reason, what I mean by that is your core systems which are on AIX and this, that are still not, the cloud environments are not mature enough to take them. And by choice, why? Because as I mentioned that, that whenever you are moving to cloud, you are going in agile way. When you're testing the waters, you always have a fallback mechanism. So if there is something which doesn't work, you can come back to on-premise. So I think these are the standard, guiding principles which organizations are using today while driving the hybrid cloud strategy.
Yeah, you mentioned two very important points and interesting points. One was from the business perspective, de-risking with multiple cloud or hyperscalers, right? Also, probably this gives a leverage to bring the costs, under control. What I have seen is sometimes, customers also think cloud as a way to outsource the risk, right? You know, maybe you have an application which today is plagued by downtimes, and you're not able to really drive maybe 5 nines or 6 nines of availability. One of the ways could be to completely move it to cloud and get that kind of an SLA. I mean, any thoughts on this? Do you think this is something which you see as a common trend of outsourcing the risk to cloud?
Yeah, so okay, there are two ways to look at that. As one is outsourcing of risk. Another thing is adding your expertise to your skill sets, right? When you say outsourcing a risk, it kind of sounds pretty negative from a technology perspective.
Okay.
I'm just, when you put this point in front of any CTO, they would not want to commit on that. That no, I'm not outsourcing. I'm not running away from that.
Right.
But if you try to put it other way around, wherein you are expanding your skill set, then definitely that is the same logic gets accepted, right? Yes, there's nothing wrong in that. And just adding upon to this point, I still have a point in doubt over there that if the due diligence is not being done properly, wherein why your applications are going down, and you simply try to move them to cloud, I think that may not simply solve the problem.
Okay.
Because why the application is going down, is there a code issues? Is there some microservice related issues? If those are not being diagnosed properly, shifting that to cloud will not solve the problem.
Right.
But yeah, if there are infrastructure related issues which are causing this, definitely to some extent you can have cloud service provider taking that on their onus and then trying to help you, because if you had a data center team of let's say 5 to 7 people versus entire AWS or Azure working for you to solve that problem, that can be a very quick kill. So nothing wrong in that. That's what I feel.
Right, right. The other point which you mentioned were around the legacy large systems, right? AIX, Solaris, and the monolith application, the monster applications running. I think so. It's of course the elephant in the room, and nobody wants to really, disturb it as well, because it has a direct impact on business, right? Being in technology for so long, I am also not pretty sure whether the cloud is really a platform to handle those kind of workloads where your application over the years has been fine-tuned to run on a certain infrastructure, right? So yes, unless and until the application architecture itself changes, migrating such workloads to cloud may not be the best of the decisions, right? So yeah.
So in fact, I would like to add to that is what you're saying is correct, but that applies to the somewhat a mindset and also somewhat the ecosystem issue. From where I'm coming up is putting your core systems onto cloud. If you'll ask me this question 5 years back, it was nobody was even thinking about that. Having said that, shifting to cloud native core system is something which is happening now. So when I'm talking as of now in the BFSI sector, all of us know that there are insurance startups which are coming. Today, IRDA is having 17 applications already applied, wherein the new startups are coming. Uh, Everybody will not be able to accommodate the core systems, which is having the which is AIX based and invest heavily into that. The cloud native core systems are providing them that agility. Today, if you talk about eBows of the world or those kind of core systems, they are providing that agility so that the small partners or small investors can invest into that. They can try and they can fail fast if they need to, if there is any issue. But that's the shift, which is what according to me is happening. And that is happening for the good because that is helping many new entrants to enter in the market, which was earlier being dominated by some of 3 or 4 biggies of the tech world.
I think so. It's a jargon from I would say the banking fraternity, hollow the core or decouple the core, right? Where you're trying to take out this, as many services as possible from the core and then modernizing it, which I think so makes tremendous sense. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So basically, just to adding upon to that, decoupling a core
Yes.
is something. If you see today, the core is there, but what your core system is doing is very basic thing. Rest of the things are already being taken out.
Correct.
But still, those organizations are not able to move because still that core thing that is being done with the core system, they are not getting an alternative for that, unfortunately. And also, it is so deeply integrated that it's not easy to move out of that. Yeah.
So which brings me to the next question, right? So like we were discussing in earlier chat as well, today we have multiple platforms, right? You've got cloud, you've got on-prem cloud, you've got certain SaaS services which you're running in. How do you perceive about, importance of data protection? What do you feel about compliance, governance of data? How difficult or easy it has become for you?
So, to be honest, this area is definitely becoming most important now. So, I mean, when I say now, why? Because initial years people were just simply, trying to experiment with the new thing in the house and then, let's move to cloud, let's move to cloud. But with the current ecosystem, however, the things are going and we all know the number of attacks and that is happening. It's an eye opener for all the organization. Just now extending that understanding further, how it is working out for organization is basically point number one. I don't think any organization today is well prepared to put the security framework, well-established security framework when they are moving to cloud from the day one. And that's where I see they are dependent on the partners. Partners who can come in and provide that, bridge that gap for the time being, at least till the time I'm maturing in my skill sets. Or when I say as an organization, I'm getting the right set of people to help us in that way. And it is an area which somewhat is unknown territory, probably at the beginning stage for any organization when they are exploring. Because, if I say maturity of cloud security today, definitely there are claims around that. If we go by statistics, I'm sure you might be having some numbers around that, and please do share that. But the attacks that are happening on premises versus on cloud, this myth is not known as of now in a very proper way to the organization. So to answer your point, how well it is working out for the organization, to be very honest, organizations are dependent on external skill sets and support for that. And it is in the status of getting to the maturity level, according to me.
Correct. I mean, I would agree, and this entire industry is evolving, right? Again, just to throw some statistics, right? Actually, today malware are manufactured at a rate uh, with which you just can't cope up. Daily you have millions of malware which come out. Even if you assume that 99% of them are, taken care of, there are still at least 10,000 malware which escape the realms of any known malware detector or solution, right? So it is not question of whether it will breach or not. It is just question of when it will breach and what remedial action you can take, right? And it is especially true with, like we discussed about the platform proliferation. I mean, you've got your set practices tools when it comes to on-prem within the data center, right? You know what needs to be done for your on-prem application infrastructure, everything. When it comes to cloud, there are learnings, right? And nobody can claim that, okay, I have seen so much that I know this stuff really well, right? Daily you will see new challenges, you will see new loopholes, and then you will need to plug them. For example, we were talking about cloud native, right? We were talking about microservices architecture, we were talking about Kubernetes, right? There is so much in that ecosystem, right? I mean, actually, in our world, we say it takes a village to really build a successful microservices based application. And it's true, right? The entire tool set is new. You deploying technologies which are unfortunately not time tested, right? The earlier thing was this is time tested and it would work, slowly has disappeared because everything is new. So there is no question of being time tested, right? So things will fail. They are designed to be fail, but with that comes a bigger problem of security, which unfortunately needs to be dealt with at that point in time. So with that, my closing question to you is around, this entire cloud wagon, hybrid, multi, how do you see this evolving, in Indian context, with your financial services experience? Where do you see this heading?
So let me not limit that to financial sector for that
Sure.
matter, and extend that to the other sectors also. Definitely, financial sector is an early adapter for that. Uh, why I'm saying that is because I've kind of experienced this from the core infrastructure perspective also, wherein we talk about the roads or the bridges or the companies which deals into that. They also have started realizing importance of cloud. That is point number one. Point number two, in terms of how do we see this is shaping up, as I mentioned, there are many companies which have floated with this wave and have got the early mover advantage. And there are many companies which has floated with this wave and also got hit by the unknown issues which they were not anticipating, right? Uh, it's definitely worth going through this phase and experimenting with that in a way wherein you can start banking upon that with a fail-safe mechanism. So, for example, when you have a choice, build the skill set, because it's not something when you need at that point in time. If you try to go for that, then definitely you don't have a time to deal with that. According to me, when you don't need a cloud, or when you feel that as an organization you are at a complacency level, or at the level wherein you feel that I don't need cloud, probably experimenting with the cloud at that point in time can be a right strategy according to me, because that point in time you are not sacrificing your business critical applications to deal with the cloud. You have a time, you have a budget, play around on that, build the skill sets, and then slowly steadily start shifting your workloads towards the cloud. That can be the best way to deal with that. So according to me, many companies have started doing that, and cloud is here to stay for sure. It's just that how quickly the pickup will happen, how quickly the results will start driving through. That is something which all of us needs to just wait and watch and try to drive through that.
Sure. I mean, I just remember, a few words from one of my CTOs. I mean, when I started my career, CTOs in Sun Microsystem days, way back, I mean, it's a very known figure, used to say that there will be only 5 computers in the world, right? That's what we would end up with. And this is way back in 2004, 2005 types, which was a fairly bold statement to make. And, Sun used to, brashly pose a line of network is computer, right? Which actually, I think they said it little ahead of time. And we're just realizing it, right? But will we get to a situation where there'll be just 4 or 5 computers in the world? I don't think so, really. My feeling is that we will still continue to have a strong on-premise IT. Few workloads will go, few workloads will stay back. In fact, few workloads will also come back, right? And that's how this entire bandwagon is going to play out, as my feeling. Of course, future is anybody's guess, but that's what my feeling is. Any closing comments, Rupesh?
Just adding up to that is any disruption starts with unpredictability, right? And I mean, we may consider cloud. So I still remember, on a lighter note, there was some video which some gentleman who was not understanding the cloud and explaining the cloud that,
Information technology, Tata, AIA, life insurance. And now to Mr. Amol Divanji, Head of Pre-Sales India and SARC Veeam. Can we please have a group photo as well?